Welcome to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast, a show for women entrepreneurs who want to build, grow, and lead successful businesses and high-performing teams. I'm your host, Lindsay White, leadership coach and people strategy expert, here to bring you unplugged conversations with a variety of amazing guests who share expert advice and real actionable people strategies for your growing business. Ready to get unplugged? Let's jump in. Welcome back, my friends, to another fantastic episode of Female Founder Unplugged. I'm really pumped today to have my friend Alyssa with me. We met very recently, and one of those connections where you just instantly sort of feel the sparkle. And we've had a series of great conversations. I was recently on her show. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can listen. You can listen to both back to back if you really want. But we've had some really great conversations. And I am excited to have Alyssa on the show here today as a guest. And we decided just as we were going to hit record, we're gonna have a great yak. That's what you called it, Alyssa, and I love that. And we're gonna talk about all sorts of cool stuff. So thank you. Thanks for coming on my show.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's always exciting when you have that connection with
Yeah.
people, right? And especially like I'm in Iowa. We're pretty far away from each other, and
Yes.
yet we can build like a real connection through Zoom that's more than just like transactional, right? It's true
Yes.
friendship.
It's true friendship. And I guess that was one of the things I learned during COVID is you can make some really great connections. It's all about the intention. It doesn't matter how you do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, to start off with, tell us like who you are, what you do, and what do you got cooking?
Yeah, so Alyssa Nolte, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called TruVue. It's a predictive analytics software that predicts your customers' future behavior, what they're going to do, if they're going to renew with you. Lots of really cool nerdy stuff that I always tell people like it's my brainchild, but there's people way smarter than me who are really making it happen. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I really never intended to do this, and I think that's a fairly common story with a lot of us.
Mhm.
I joined a small startup right out of college. I was employee number one. I was 100% commission only. So I ate what I killed and it was a terrifying first several years in that role, but
Yeah.
I learned so much from it that has really shaped who I am today.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's a big leap right out of college to go right into a full commission position.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I cannot believe that I did that. You know what I mean? Like, if, speaking to my younger self, what were you thinking? But I talked to my dad about it, and he was a career salesman.
Okay.
And he said to me, he goes, you can work for a big company like I do, and you can always wonder what that company was.
Yeah.
Or you can get in on the ground floor and it could be something amazing that you end up loving. Or worst case, it totally fails and you walk out with a great story. But either
Yeah.
way, you're ahead of everyone else. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, so it was almost like permission to go try it. And it ended up being, like I said, it was really hard. Not gonna
Yeah.
pretend like it wasn't. But I have some of like unparalleled skills that I had to learn because when you're a founder of anything, whether you're the true founder or employee number one, you have to basically be everything all the time. And so I had to learn all kinds of things I would have never had to learn in a big corporation.
100%. And I think for so many of us that are accidental entrepreneurs, you can't see me, I have my hand up. Never dreamed. I actually often say I have no business running a business.
I
Um,
say that all the time. I'm with the two people that I started the business with. I'm like, these are three people who have no business running a business because it was a former firefighter, a college professor, and a fresh college graduate trying to do a B2B business. We had absolutely no business starting this thing. Like, it's really a miracle that it worked out.
Ah, I love it, right? I mean, it every day is a school day, right? Like that's
Except you're the teacher and also the student, and also you're in charge of your own schedule and your own curriculum. Like every day's a school
yeah,
day,
yeah.
but nobody's teaching you.
No, no, you're totally picking it up as you go along. That is tricky. But I do love that because I think that that's really interesting that being a part of that startup taught you
Yeah.
some important stuff. What would you say is like the most important thing that you learned going into that startup right after college?
I learned it's one of those things, when you learn something valuable,
Yeah.
And you look back at it and you're like, well, obviously, well, duh, this is super obvious, right? So it's going to be one of those moments. Nobody's going to get struck by lightning with what I'm about to say. But the idea that there are people out there who know you for what you're trying to do and are willing to help you, right? The only reason we were successful is because we were in a community of people who liked us as people and knew what we were trying to do and
Yeah.
were willing to be open and honest with us and give us great feedback, but
Yeah.
we're also willing to make connections and open doors for us.
Yeah.
I tell this story all the time about one of our biggest clients, and we still work with them today with Salesforce.
Yeah.
And like they're a major brand name
Huge.
and we're a tiny little company in the middle of nowhere. Like I can look out my window and see a cornfield. And like we're not in that bubble. And the only reason we had that opportunity was someone who had an office in the same building as us, had a friend who worked there, who knew what we were trying to do and said, "Hey, my friend works at Salesforce. He's looking for what you're looking for. Here's his cell phone number. You should give him a call."
Serious.
And I actually didn't call him. I let that phone number, I let that phone number sit on my desk for like 2 or 3 weeks because in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, I am a 24-year-old girl from
Yeah.
a middle of nowhere town. What could Salesforce possibly want with what we have to offer? And so I let that phone number sit on my desk for 3 or 4 weeks. And then a couple weeks later, Josh came back down. He said, "Hey, you haven't called my friend." And I said, "Yeah, because they're Salesforce and I'm a little girl. I'm a child." Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not gonna make this phone call. And he actually picked up my phone, dialed the number for me, and
Wow.
let it start ringing, and stuck it in my hand and said, "You're making that phone call right now," and literally forced me to do it. Next thing I know, 2 weeks later, we had a contract with Salesforce, and we've still worked with them today. I've worked with them for 10 years. It was a phone call that turned into millions of dollars of revenue, and the only reason we were successful. And I almost didn't make the phone call because I doubted myself, and
Oh,
someone else picked up the phone and dialed it for me.
first of all, what a story. That is insanity. But what an example of that trash talk in our own head that
Yeah.
says we can't. We're not old enough. We're not smart enough. We don't have enough. Like I'm sure
We're
all I
not
can
in the right
hear it.
location. I don't have ex McKinsey in my LinkedIn profile. Like I didn't
Yeah.
go to Stanford, right? And yet and yet they ended up wanting what we had. And it's
Yes.
been the best relationship. I've made genuine friends working with that
Yes.
company. And it was the only reason that we had that opportunity was because someone literally dialed the phone and shoved it in my face.
So, first of all, I mean, a great deal of the work I do comes through my network. We need those champions. We need those people that believe in us, that are
Hmm.
willing to dial the, I love that they dialed the number and put it in your head.
Right. I was
That's
like, no,
what
no,
your
no, no,
family
no,
did. Yeah.
stop. And then it was too late. And I was like, okay, fine. Doing it. I guess we're doing it.
I we need champions like that. We need
Yeah.
people that'll give us a kick in the ass, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll be there to listen, they'll be a shoulder, but they'll also put two hands on our back and push us.
Yeah.
But honestly, this is a story I hear over and over again in the work that I do and in the places that I travel, is this head trash that just it can really get in the way, could really screw you up.
Yeah. Yeah. It can. And it it's one of those things like I look back, okay, what other opportunities did I miss because someone
Uh,
wasn't there to dial the phone for me and shove me into that situation. And to your point though, like it's having those champions. So when we started TruVue, the company that I'm working on right now, you do that founder thing where you set your core values. And I set mine, they were trust, customer success, and pay it forward. And pay it forward is my favorite of those three values because it's the idea that we give first and we give often and we give more than we get.
yeah.
And that's so important to me and so much to the ethos of who I am as a person. But
Yes.
it's because of that, like that mindset is what has gotten me to this point in my career. Because
Wow.
other people around me said, "I'm going to pay it forward. I don't know you very well, or I do know you very well,
Yeah.
but I want you to be successful and I believe in what you're trying to do. So I'm not going to get you the deal, but I will open the door for you."
I love that. And just the idea that our values, all of that, we do all that stuff. You're right. The beginning of a new business, vision,
Hmm.
mission, values. Your values are really only of value. if you use them.
And
If
if you believe
Yes.
them, and if you as the leader are willing to sacrifice something good because if it doesn't align with your values.
Yeah, yes, beautifully said. And I would add to that that you are willing to give up revenue.
Yes,
Because if you're willing to compromise your values to make money, then they're not really your values. Is that a fair statement?
a hugely fair statement. I've had to do that before.
Yep. Yeah.
I had a client who, so we're a research company, right? Our whole shtick is that we are going out and we're talking to your customers and we're helping you understand what they're saying and what they're doing and what they're thinking and feeling so
Yeah.
that you can make strategic decisions, right?
Yeah.
But like there's a huge degree of trust there because we're
Yeah.
asking your customers to say things that they maybe don't necessarily want to say to you or don't want to have tied. Because everybody's like, I'm going to fill out this survey, I'm going to put in my email, I'm going to get all this marketing crap sent to me. So I have to be that trustworthy intermediary between you and your customers.
Yeah.
And your customers have to believe that if they say something to me, it's said in confidence.
Yes.
And I had a client that we actually had to stop working with because they wanted us to do things in data collection that are unethical by my standards.
Yeah.
And we actually had to turn down what would have been a very lucrative contract
Yes.
and relationship, but
Yes.
it didn't align with our values. Our first value was trust. You have to believe that
Yes.
you can trust us. And customer success is the second value, but that doesn't necessarily mean customers get what they want. It means that we make decisions to help customers be successful. And that
Yes.
doesn't always mean you get exactly what you want.
Right.
And, we make decisions on our core values, and I'm very black and white about that. Like, I will not compromise my team, my integrity, or the values we've set simply for a dollar. There's always money. There's not always integrity.
Well, and this is the thing, right? And first of all, thank you. You articulated that in such a beautiful way. And I think this is some of the work that I get to do and is always so valuable for me in my own business. What does integrity mean for me? And we constantly are redefining and reevaluating those values for
Mhm.
ourselves personally, because you said it, those come from us. This is our business. So
Right?
those values are generated to some degree, though the interpretation might be different in our organization. Integrity for me is doing the right thing even when it's hard.
Right.
In my business, it's doing the right thing even when it's not profitable. Those are slightly different connotations, but like it's when you actually make decisions based on those values that things really do align, that you can feel great about what you're doing and who you're working with and how you're making money. That's, I think, where the magic happens.
There's a quote by a famous psychologist, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and it's my favorite quote. I'll recite it right now for everyone because it's one of those moments where you see that light bulb.
Yeah.
People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but their true beauty is revealed only if there is light from within. And
Um,
it's this idea that like everything's good in good times.
yeah.
Stained glass, all windows look good and sparkly in good times, but
Yeah.
when it's dark outside, when it's hard, when you're in a
Yeah.
situation, when you have to make a hard choice, you're going to see the true beauty of your company, your team, your people, and yourself if you have a light from within. And
Yes.
as the leader of my organization, I set the core values. I sure as hell better live up to them. And if
Uh-huh.
I don't live up to them, if you can't see our core values in me, then either I'm the problem or I'm being dishonest with what our core values
Yeah,
are.
yes, right. And I like, this, so that is a beautiful quote. I really love that. I got to find that. This idea that as leaders, we actually have to go first.
Right.
We need to demonstrate what it means to bring those values to life those aren't just pieces of paper, not posters on the wall that other people follow.
Right.
We, as the leader and the founder, we need to demonstrate what it means to do that thing and to
Exactly.
be that thing.
And there's nothing more disillusioning than when your leader says, I'm all about employee wellness. And then they expect you to work on your vacation or to be at your desk 24/7 or whatever that looks like. Like
Yeah.
I've had people like that in my life where
Yeah.
in public they would espouse what a great leader they were
Yeah.
and they would say all the right things. And
Yeah.
then you knew that as soon as the microphone turned off, that wasn't really the person who that they
No.
were. And it's almost worse. Like I'd rather have you be upfront with who you are. If you're going to be toxic and terrible, at least own that, right? Like
It
don't
just,
pretend that you're incredible and then be toxic and terrible. That's almost worse.
yes. No, I like honestly, I think you're right. Just show up and be real.
Be who you are.
And I also want to add to this because I mean, I could talk all day about values. They can be changed. Like,
Right. It doesn't need to be the same ones that you set, you
no,
know.
no, it
Just
doesn't.
like my 24-year-old self is not the same as my 34-year-old self. I've grown, I've evolved. My values have grown and evolved.
Of course they have.
And it's okay for your business to grow and evolve too, because I really truly believe it has to reflect who you are as the leader. And if you can't live up to those values, you sure as hell better not expect anyone else to.
No. No, and I think this is such an important conversation because our values, along with our vision that we as the leader, as the CEO, we have to enroll people in that vision.
Yeah.
Get, we have to enable them to see themselves in that vision. We have to
Yes.
enable them to believe in the mission, to feel like they are contributing to that change we want to create in the world. And our all of those pieces together really are foundational in our culture. How do we want to work together? How do we get this work done? How do we accomplish this mission and create this vision using the values, living those every day? That's culture in an
Right.
organization.
Right. And it's not something that you can just like do overnight. It is um it is earned through consistent,
Yeah.
transparent action.
Yes.
And the
Beautiful.
consistency is a huge part of it. Like if
Yes.
you can't articulate what your intentions are, if you don't understand how to successfully motivate your team, I coach a dance team on the side. And there's so many parallels between the things that
Sure.
I do with my teenage dancers to my adult employees and my adult team members.
Yeah.
Like I have to tell them, hey, we're going to run a mile today, and here's the benefit you're going to get from that,
Yes.
right? If I'm just saying we're going to run a mile today and I don't give you any context for why
Yeah.
that's going to help you, then I'm just someone who's crazy and making you run when that doesn't make any sense in the context of what you're trying to do. They're dancers. They're not runners. We're not in track.
Nobody's.
However, I can say like you need to be able to run a mile because you need to be able to have 8 minutes of stamina in
Yes.
order to get through this routine. So let's go run the mile. So if I set that context for these
Yes.
teenagers, it makes a huge difference. And I even remind them like sometimes I forget that you guys don't know what you're doing. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
15
Yeah.
years of context.
Yes.
You have one season. And so I encourage them like, hey, if you don't know why we're doing something, ask me because odds are good there is a reason. I'm not just a person who's making you run because I enjoy it. I am a
Yeah.
person who's like, we're
Yeah.
not here to do that. But if you haven't opened the door as a leader and said, if you don't know why something is happening, ask, number one, give them permission to do so. And then number two, make sure that you are emotionally mature enough as a leader to create a space where if they ask, you're not offended by that. Because
100%.
some of us are like, well, I'm the boss, so why are you questioning me? Like,
Uh,
they might be asking for a really good reason. They just don't have the context that you have. So being able to have that conversation, open the door, and create that psychological safety for people to ask, that's all on you as the
yes.
leader. You have to be a big boy. You have to be a big girl and
Yes.
be okay with someone asking that question.
Well, and you said it, the self-management is so crucial. Like park
Yeah.
your feelings, park your damn ego.
Yeah.
The other piece I want to add to that, because I actually think that's really critical. We it is our responsibility as we build our organizations. If we start out with just us so as a solopreneur, and then we add a couple contractors, and then maybe add a couple employees, and then we add, it is our job to help people to connect with their why, their
Hmm.
purpose, and then connect that to our purpose, our mission, and our vision. That is our job. And I think
Exactly.
often as leaders in our organizations, we actually don't realize. Like, I love that you called that out because I think that's a piece that's missing. No, no, no. Your job is to run the business, but it is also to capture people's imaginations. It
Yes.
is to explain to them why that line of code is important to how we serve clients and ultimately make money. That
Yeah.
is your job, is to draw those lines for people, connect the dots.
And even when you think it's obvious, right?
Yes.
Because things that are so intuitive and obvious to me, I just had this conversation with my COO at TruVue this morning, and we were talking about, we're a fairly small team right now.
Yeah.
Everyone on the team is consummate professionals. They're go-getters. They are people who have my personality and approach to work, but with different skills that,
Yes.
I could never do what they do. And I made a comment like, I'm a little worried that our team is always going to have to be small because I am not great at like helping people necessarily like think through it themselves. I want thinkers. I want people who are like, I see a problem and I'm gonna go fix it. And
Yeah.
I have to work on that as myself as a leader because if we're going to grow, it's going to have to be bigger than the five people that I've already
100%.
hand selected. So I said to her, one of the things I have to work on this year is helping people get the drive that I'm looking for, where I see a problem and I'm willing to go fix it, or how to spot those problems and how to ideate on those solutions. And
Yes.
that's a weakness of mine right now that I'm actively working on because as a leader, I have to be self-aware of where I fall short, put my ego aside, and recognize that I'm great at a great many things. I'm also shit at a great many things.
Okay, I love like thank you for the vulnerability, for the self-reflection. And I want to say to anyone that is listening that Alyssa just handed it to you. You need the opportunity to self-reflect. And can I say that if that's challenging for you, if you don't know where to go to that and do that, having a coach can be very valuable.
Yes.
That is the space. A coach creates the space for you to self reflect, and they hold up the mirror and they help you do that in a way that you feel supported, but also can have trust and feel very vulnerable, and you can work your way through it. That's a great place to hire a coach, but you have to do that work.
Let me just put a double down on that
Yes,
because
double down.
you could have a coach who's there to be helpful and supportive for you, or you could do it the hard way like I did, where I had a boss who made sure to break
Yeah.
down my ego at every chance. And he would
Yeah.
even tell people, he would talk about like it's really important that you push people to the edge and you see where
Oh,
they break and how
yeah.
they break and in what way they break and you want to build them up
No.
so that you can break them down. And I remember sitting there going, "Are you kidding me right now? Like that's a
Yeah.
real thing that you're doing on purpose." And so yeah, you can do it the hard way. You can have a shitty boss who tries to break you
Yeah.
intentionally and tries to make you look in the mirror, but does it almost in like a manipulative, narcissistic, toxic way.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can have a coach who really wants you to be successful. Those are
Yes.
really, those are
Yes.
the two paths that you
Please.
can choose from.
Please, please don't be that human being that in some way believes that they are so superior that they can break people down. This is not,
In order to rebuild them in the image he wanted,
yeah,
right?
don't. That is so narcissistic and that's gross. Okay, let me just be clear. That is not leadership.
No,
That
that's
is that is
authoritarianism.
that is psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely toxic and horrific. And if you have a boss like that, I'm telling you, you should quit your job immediately. And please, if you listen to this show, do not become that human. That's gross.
Let's be honest, if someone is listening to this show, they are not going to become that
I
human
hope
because
not. Oh my
you
God.
have to be like those types of people are not willing to listen to other people talk
No.
because they're the only ones in the room that matter. And so if you're listening to this show, I would say you have incredible potential to be a great leader because you've taken
Yes.
the first step towards understanding yourself and other perspectives.
I hope so. I mean, that's the space. That is what I do. That is my mission and my calling. That is who I desire to have as guests on the show, and the conversations that I want to have is with people who are on the journey to being the best leader they can be. We're all at different places at different times, and we're all working on something because leadership's a journey, not a destination. And I love that you just are so clear about this is my part of the journey this year as a leader. I got to get better at this.
Yeah. I actually started the podcast that you were a guest on, Taking Back Monday, as almost like a trauma response. I left that company and then I started the podcast. And it was basically my attempt to like rebuild relationships with myself as a leader and as someone who has thoughts worth sharing and being able to talk to other people who had the same mindset,
Yeah.
right? That leadership is that the decisions you make as a leader and the idea that Sunday scaries are a choice, but
Yeah.
not as an employee, as a leader, you decide if
Yeah.
you're going to create an environment where your team has the Sunday scaries, not your team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I love the way you put that. And I do. I love the conversation you've created on your show because you clearly care and care about this deeply and care about this because ultimately leadership is one of the key factors in success in especially in small businesses. But
Yeah.
we see it in the biggest Fortune 500 companies, right? Leadership is absolutely crucial. And for many of us that sort of fall into entrepreneurship, we haven't necessarily had the great examples. We haven't had a lot of leadership development in our path.
Yeah.
And so we got to work hard. We got to hustle on that. And we've got to keep that in mind that being a great leader means, yeah, we're going to screw it up and then we're going to work hard to fix it. Because I think
Yes.
that's,
Screw
that's
up, own it, work hard to fix it. Right.
Yes. Get the right support, get the right training, get the right people that can help you see. And not just where you screw it up, but where you do it good too. Like that's an
Right.
important element. Just like we got to have a champion for our business. We need a champion as a leader because we need to see when we do it right so we can
Yeah.
repeat that.
And I think to not just see when we do it right, but verbalize it.
Yes.
Right. So, not to get like woo woo, but it like there's a little psychology behind
Yeah.
being able to say out loud. Like, so for the longest time when I agreed to be the CEO of this company, you go to a party and people will say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I work in consulting." And then it became, "Oh, I work at a software company." And then it became, "Oh, I lead a software company." And now I can confidently say, "Hey, I'm the CEO of TruVue." But that took time for me to like
Yeah.
verbalize that success because it almost felt like if I say that out loud, they're going to give me a side eye like, who are you to say that you're a CEO of a software company?
Back to
And
the
that took time though for me, even
yeah,
though it was true,
100%. I mean, just back to the head trash. Who am I to call myself a CEO?
right? And
Right?
that's and like that
Oh,
has been really hard. But now when you meet me, I'll be like, I'm the CEO of this software company. We just had a product launch. We're going out into the market. We're talking to investors. I'm living Shark Tank. Like I'm able to say those things now, but that took time.
yeah.
Even though they were factually true, even though there was no one who could dispute that thing for me, it took me having the psychological comfort
Yeah.
to stand up and say, like, hey, I'm doing cool stuff. Like, you
You
want to
are
be a part of this.
enough. Yeah, I love that. And I think, first of all, acknowledging that the head trash gets in the way. But
It
second
does.
of all, also recognizing that it's a process and you keep working the process, right?
Exactly.
You just keep learning and growing. And leadership is always about that. You can never stop wanting to evolve and grow as an effective leader because
I
there's
think
always
the time you've decided to stop evolving actively and growing as a leader actively, then it's time for you to step down from that leadership role.
yeah.
It's time to move on. Because if you're not willing to admit that you're not always right, then you're not going to be serving your business in the way it needs to be served.
Yeah. And not serving the people that work in your business.
Exactly.
And
Serve being the key word, right? Like, I'm not here to lead, I'm here to serve. And
yeah.
I'm serving in a role as CEO. But if I'm just here to sit at my desk, kick my feet up, and call it a day and let all of you guys do the hard stuff, make the hard decisions or move things forward, and I only want to be the figurehead, then it's time for me to go.
Yeah, 100%. Again, back to that idea of, the job is always about continuing to connect people to the vision and the
Yeah,
mission and just harness the brilliance. We hire people onto our teams because we think they're awesome.
right.
Our job as a leader is to actually encourage them to continue to be awesome.
Right. Create that space, as you said,
Yes.
for allowing them to be their maximum awesome.
Yeah, yeah, the maximum awesome. I love that. And I think to me, that message is even more important now than ever as we are seeing spaces in the world where people's efforts are being derided, right? We see people after 15-year career, they're just dismissed. All of their time and effort, like that somehow that doesn't count. And that just isn't true.
Right.
People add the value in our bit. They are the value in our businesses. Yeah, we
Right.
got
And you as the leader have to
yeah.
extract that. That's on you.
Yes. Yeah.
Like either you made a bad hire or you haven't created the space for that hire to flourish. Either way, you are really the only person in the room that can do something about it. Because as individual contributors, we can only go so far
Yeah.
to be incredible, and sometimes we get punished for being a high performer, right? You end up high performing your way into more work.
Yeah.
But as a leader, if you can look around and say, okay, here's where the business is falling short, here's where this person is falling short. Either, like I said, either you made a bad hire or you are not giving them the space to be great.
As my mother always says, there's more than enough blame to go around. That's true when a marriage breaks up. It's
Yep.
true when a working relationship isn't working out, right? Like when someone's not performing or they're not fitting or it's not where there's tension there, we need to stop first and self-reflect. Like what am I potentially doing or not doing as a leader that's impacting? Yes. What are they doing or not doing? I find so often it's just a lack of great communication. There's some kind of thing that is not clear, but we have to take our accountability. It cannot, I see this all the time. I was talking with a prospective client. She's like, well, I have this person and they're just not doing it. How do I make them do it? You can't make them do anything. That's not
No,
how this works.
no.
They're not slaves, they're
Right,
employees, they're contractors.
right.
And that was the conversation we had was like, what do you need to do? I don't think she was ready to do it, quite
Yeah,
frankly. And so I'm cool with that because then I'm not the right person for you to be working with.
right.
Right? There's intention and motivation at play. And if all you want to do is just tell someone and be punitive, you're not going to harness their true power and their true capability.
And let's be honest, like that can work for a short amount of time, but it's going to wear and tear on your soul. And maybe it will wear and tear on your employees. You're going to see a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And ultimately, your business is going to suffer because everything that we're talking about is feel good content, right? Everybody wants to think that your leader has the best intent at heart, but at the end of the day, we're businesses. So
Yeah.
let's make a business case for great leadership. Happy employees has a direct correlation to happy customers.
Yes.
Happy customers has a direct correlation to the market perception of you and your brand and your business. And a great market perception has a direct correlation to the profitability of your business.
Yes.
It all goes back to the heart of it, though, which is happy employees, happy
Yeah.
customers, great brand
Yeah.
perception, market advantage. And
100%.
so, like, if you're hearing this and you're like, well, I can be a great leader, but at the end of the day, I'm here to make money. Let me tell you the secret to being a great business person, to making a crap ton of
Yeah.
money, is to be a great leader
Yeah.
and have people who value your mission, your vision, and your values.
And they feel connected to it.
Exactly. They're going to give you your best. I have team members. We're a startup, so everybody barely gets paid. And but they're here willing to take a risk with me because they believe in the mission, the vision, and they align with the values. And of course, after a time, if we
Yeah.
don't make enough money to pay them, they're gonna move on and do other things.
Sure.
But they're willing to take the risk with me right now because we have done a great job of building those relationships and giving them the space to be true members of the team and not just employees.
No. And the one thing you missed is that they believe in you. And that is a
That's
test.
that lack of self-awareness. That's
That's
that imposter
yeah,
syndrome speaking through
right?
again. Yeah.
Exactly. And there right there is what a coach does for people is shows them that the people yes, all of that is true, Alyssa, and they believe in you. They've asked you to be in that CEO role because
Hmm.
they believe you are the right person to lead the charge for them, for the clients, for the investors, for the
Hmm.
technology, right? And that is really key is that we can own that
Right.
as much as we can own the places where we need work.
Well, and to your point, like from as a leader, you might be the most incredible person at your core. You might have everything right, but if you can't connect those dots for people, if you haven't figured out how to communicate and connect with your team,
Yes.
that you're not going anywhere either. So like working with your coach or your consultant or whoever you're working with to figure out how do I express this in a way that resonates and connects.
Yes. Yes. And you do what Alyssa's doing right now, and that's using the V word. And I don't mean vagina, I mean vulnerability. You also use the F word, and I don't mean the four-letter one, I mean feelings.
Yeah.
Leadership includes the ability to be vulnerable. And I don't mean oversharing. I mean,
Right.
actually, as Alyssa has beautifully demonstrated to us in this conversation, this is my self reflection. This is where I see myself needing to improve. That's vulnerability. This is how I feel about it. I feel like I have let people down. I feel like I have not been the best leader at moments in time because I need to work on this. And that's my mission today. Those things are important in our leadership. We are human. We need to be able to demonstrate vulnerability so others feel they can do it. We need to be able to share our feelings so other people can share.
Exactly.
That's how we create community and ultimately how we foster culture in our, even in our small startups, right? And culture eats strategy for breakfast. We know that, right? Oh my gosh. I could for real talk to you for days and days. I love this conversation. It's been wide ranging, but so valuable, so many nuggets. And Alyssa, thank you for just showing up and being you, talking it out, telling the truth, and demonstrating why you are a fabulous leader and a CEO. Like you really showed us today what that looks like. So thank you. I'm super grateful for that.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on my show.
Yeah,
And thank you for all that you're doing to help leaders take that next step and truly achieve their full potential and be great and deliver that leadership that the world is just craving.
100%. The world needs better leaders right now, today, because we're getting some pretty horrific examples. Let's be honest.
Hell yeah.
Pretty brutal. Where do we find you? Where do we check out what you're up to? What's the scoop?
Come hang out with me on LinkedIn. I post fairly regularly. Just a simple find Alyssa Nolte, and you'll see in my line it says Notorious Plant Killer. That's who I am at my core. So if you see Alyssa Nolte talking about killing plants, that's me. You can also find me at alyssanolte.com, and I have all of my various projects linked up there. But would love to connect with you. And if there's anything I can do to help your business be successful, I truly believe in pay it forward. So let's talk.
And I will tell you, she doesn't just say it, she says it. Like, or doesn't just say it, she actually does it. And we have already started to create and collaborate and refer, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful friendship already. So thank you again for your valuable time. Super grateful for this conversation today.
Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. I feel so lucky that I get to connect with such amazing female entrepreneurs. And if you enjoyed today's session, would you do me a big favor? Would you hit subscribe and give this episode a 5-star review? I'd also love it if you would share with your friends. We've got a goal here at the Female Founder Unplugged podcast to impact 1,000 female founders. And with your help, we can really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show. And don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. We'll see you next week.